So this is Louis, and this is going to be take 5 of this difficult video. This is one of those videos where it's either going to be an hour long, or I have to script it out, or I have to force myself to be concise, and I'm struggling to do that. So I hope you guys appreciate the fact that this is a difficult video, and I'm trying to make this as short as I can. But before I get to the topic at hand, support me with JList, support me by going to PlayAsia, support me on Subscribestar. You can find all the links in the description. Follow me on social media, blah, blah, blah. So we're talking about this article on Ben Shapiro's website, The Daily Wire. I don't really like Ben Shapiro. I'll say that right out of the gate. And I'll explain to you a few different reasons why I don't like him. But it has to do with the fact that he is a Jewish identitarian. So one of the problems that we're going to be talking about here is trying to distinguish the Israeli lobby and Jewish identitarians, because they're not the same. They overlap to some degree, but Jewish identitarians and the Israeli lobby are not the same faction. They're not the same group. And I'll explain. It's very easy how I can explain this to you, okay? So Theresa May comes over to the United States. She's lobbying for the interests of the United Kingdom. Shinzo Abe comes over here, and he's going to Congress, and he's lobbying for the TPP, and he's lobbying for the interests of Japan. Bibi Netanyahu comes over to the United States, and he is lobbying for the interests of Israel. One of the things I don't like about Ben Shapiro is an example in this article, is he says that fact, that Bibi Netanyahu, who, by the way, just a side note, he's currently indicted on fucking corruption charges. I really don't like Bibi Netanyahu, so I'm fine with that. Fuck him. But the point is that Shinzo Abe is not very different from Bibi Netanyahu, who's also not very different as a head of state with Theresa May. These are not completely wholly separate people. And them coming over here and lobbying the interests of their home nations, this is diplomacy. This has been around since what? Fucking the 1400s even? How many centuries, how many millennia do you have to go back before diplomacy like this existed? What I don't like about Ben Shapiro is that in articles like this, he denies that. And let me find the line. Let me find the part where he denies this. So we'll start out. On Thursday, Representative Ilhan Omar, which I'll get to, was caught on tape once again indulging in her favorite off-hours pastime, some cozy anti-Semitism with cheering fans. Omar, of course, has a long history of anti-Semitism, accusing Israel of hypnotizing the world, suggesting that America's support of Israel is all about the Benjamins, backing the anti-Semitic BDS movement. Now appearing alongside fellow anti-Semitic rep Rashida Tlaib, who is herself recently accused American supporters of Israel of dual loyalty to Israel, which is a talking point. That's not actually what she said. That's a talking point of Jewish identitarians, and is, along with Omar, a supporter of the anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions from Israel. Omar reached for the anti-Semitic lever once again. First, Omar smiled when an audience member yelled, "It's all about the Benjamins." Then she stated, "What I'm fearful of, because Rashid and I are Muslim, that a lot of our Jewish colleagues go to thinking that everything we say about Israel to be anti-Semitic because we are Muslim. So for me, I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it's okay to push for allegiance to a foreign country." This is once again anti-Semitism. It sets her days since blah, blah, blah. I don't need to read your stupid quip. Suggesting that Jewish Americans are pushing for allegiance to a foreign country, or that American supporters of Israel are doing so, is a vicious conspiracy theory and a vile smear. Jewish Americans, by and large, support Israel not out of allegiance to Israel, but because Israeli protects victimized Jews all over the world, represents the sole liberal democracy in the Middle East, and provides valuable strategic partnership to the United States. So this is where we're going to stop. All of that's talking points. These are all just talking points. And it is not in any way a vicious smear or a conspiracy theory to say that Israelis in the United States are coming here to lobby on behalf of Israel. And the fact is that there are some Jews in the United States that have allegiance to Israel, and they are lobbying the United States on behalf of Israel because they have allegiance to Israel. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is true. This is happening. And this is normal. The same thing is happening with countless different nations. Okay, every time we catch a fucking Chinese spy here, what do you think this is? The fact is that because of our fucking stupid policies and our stupid culture, and your defense here, Ben, we have people coming to the United States, foreign nationals, that come here, pretend to be Americans and pretend to love this country, and they're in fact lobbying of that of foreign nation. This is real. This is happening. The spies are real, especially with the Chinese, and we're doing the same thing in foreign nations. We're doing the same fucking thing in foreign nations. This is not a fucking conspiracy theory. That's one. The second thing about Ben, and there's a lot going on here, but we're going to get to it. The second thing I don't like about Ben Shapiro is the fact that he is completely hypocritical. He has two contradictory standards, and he has no principled stance on immigration. He is such a flagrant fucking hypocrite because he has long advocated for tight immigration controls in Israel. He's all in favor of discrimination in terms of domestic policy and very staunch and tight controls around assimilation and integration in Israel. The fact that it is, in fact, a Jewish state, that identitarian attitude towards Israel, that it isn't a melting pot, it is strictly a monoculture, strictly mono-religious, and the rest of it. That is Ben Shapiro's attitude towards Israel. And in the United States, he has the complete opposite view. And I'm just going to roll you the tape.
Openly, I am libertarian when it comes to the free flow of labor. So I don't have any problem with people coming as guest workers into the country and working. I don't have a problem with H-1B visas. I have no problem with people coming in and filling jobs that employers want to pay them for. Businesses will offshore if they are not allowed to do this, and prices lower because of lower wages. So while it does, there's no question that a higher supply of labor lowers wages in particular areas of the economy. But frankly, is sort of my answer to that, and that is the libertarian answer, not to be callous.
No, borders, absolutely. Right.
Well, at least when it comes to labor, when it comes to safety, when it comes to welfare, yes, borders. Right. So I want to make sure that people who are coming in the country. This is why I'm for a wall. This is why I am for criminal background checks on people coming into the country. This is why I don't believe that people should be given citizenship unless they are found to be of net benefit to the United States. But people who are coming in to work and then leaving again, or sending the money home or something, and not on welfare, I don't really have any problem with that whatsoever. It's an interesting kind of difference between what I would term sort of the more populist wing of the Republican Party and the libertarian wing. I've had this conversation with Ann Coulter, actually, about her book, because she was deeply concerned about undercutting the wage base with regard to immigration. I was concerned more about crime and welfare dependency among people who are coming into the country. I'm not sure where you stand on that.
Well, first of all, I don't think the idea that, well, you're all for importing labor, but not for other things, is a valid distinction, because you don't just import a worker, you import a culture, you import a family, you import an entire way of being in the world.
The fact is that in regards to the United States, he has the complete opposite opinion. He is completely unmotivated to force integration policy, to force assimilation patterns such as social stigma and the rest of that. He's practically a multiculturalist as it relates to the United States, because his attitude towards American immigration is in fact that of a capitalist. He does not give a shit about assimilation or the social fabric of American society. He doesn't give a shit if there's total social upheaval. He doesn't care whether you speak English or Spanish. All he cares about is having enough immigrants here so that it can undercut American workers to specifically lower the wages of already native-born American citizens so that it directly benefits capitalists and investors. That is, and the reason I know this is because he's also in favor of eliminating all social safety nets. That is how I know he has the standpoint in relation to the United States exclusively of that as of a fucking capitalist, where it's get rid of all the social safety nets, have total open borders. And I don't care what happens outside of that. Fuck the social fabric. Oh, you speak English? I don't give a shit. He does not care. We bring in millions a year, over a million, well over a million a year in legal immigrants. He's in favor of growing that more, expanding it even more, and he just pays lip service to building the wall and all the rest of it. When it comes to Israel, his opinion is the exact opposite. It is the inverse opinion. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that Ben Shapiro's out there basically arguing for a fucking ethno-state in Israel and then turning around and saying, oh, the United States practically needs to be open borders because You know, I want fucking capitalists to make more money and fuck the American worker. I don't like that attitude. It's nakedly hypocritical. It's nakedly contradictory. And the reason I know he holds that opinion, those two separate opinions, those two separate standards, is because he is a Jewish identitarian. That is why. He does not have a universal standard for his philosophy based around immigration and based around society. Okay? Doesn't at all. He can spout all his bullshit about a spiritual fucking crisis in America, whatever the fuck that even means. But he does not give a shit about the social fabric of the United States. Not at all. Doesn't give a goddamn about assimilation. As it relates to Japan, as it relates to Israel, as it relates to the United Kingdom, as it relates to Canada, as it relates to the United States, we should all be free to set our own goddamn immigration policy. I don't care what nation we're talking about. We should all be free to tell our elected governments to set the immigration rate, to set the immigration policy, and to, you know, whether we want to have ethnic enclaves because we don't want assimilation or whatever, we should be free to determine our own fucking immigration policy, and it's based around our borders as nations. We should have borders, we should respect borders, and we should respect nations and their own fucking immigration policy. I respect every nation on the face of this earth to set their own immigration rate, to set their own immigration policy. Even as a political realist, I respect that. Why the fuck can't Ben Shapiro do the same fucking thing? Why can't Ben Shapiro respect that? Why can't everyone respect that? This is one of the problems that we have in the Western world and in the United States. That we got too many fucking people that don't respect that. That want to believe we don't... There's no such thing as nations, there's just the economy, as that one crazy Jewish fucking capitalist said. Like, I don't know whether to call him an objectivist or whatever. He was also Jewish, by the way. Lunatic. Fucking lunatic. There's no such thing as nations, there's no such thing as borders, there's just the economy. That is a fucking quote. I don't remember the guy's name. Ben Shapiro retweeted him. That guy's a fucking lunatic. He's a utopian. Okay? That's how I know that's what Ben Shapiro fucking believes. He's retweeting that fucking guy. That's his actual belief as it relates to the United States. And that is not respectful to the people already here. That is not respectful to the native population and previous immigrants who are trying to assimilate and trying to get jobs, trying to build a life. It's not respectful to them. I am opposed to that. I think we need some more goddamn assimilation. I think we need less goddamn immigrants. And I think we need strong policy based around assimilation. We need immigrants to be integrating to the United States, not becoming their own fucking religious or ethnic enclaves here. American society, the social fabric is frayed right now. And the way that you strengthen it is the way that you did it in the late 19th, early 20th century. You get the Irish, you get the Polish, you get the Germans, you get the Italians to all say, before anything, I'm not a papist before I'm an American. They all say, or whatever, you know, I'm Irish or whatever before I'm an American. They all say, I'm an American first. That's how you get assimilation. You got your Italian who's going to, you know, go to dinner with his family and speak Italian and eat Italian. But on the street, he's going to say, hey, you, in his American flag t-shirt, hey, you, speak English. That is an assimilated immigrant. That is a person that has successfully immigrated to or assimilated to the United States. He might go home and with his family eat some bullshit or say some bullshit or pretend to be foreign or celebrate a culture that he's never been a part of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an African who's never been to Africa. I'm an Italian who's never been to Italy. That kind of bullshit. But when push comes to shove, he's an American first. That is a successfully integrated immigrant. Because then they are an American. That's the standard that I have. Not just for America, but every nation. I want that to be the standard everywhere. That's my universal standard. You know why? It's a principle I hold. And that's the difference between fucking me and Ben Shapiro. He has no principle stance when it comes to immigration. He is a total naked fucking hypocrite. And the third thing that irritates me about this is the fact that with Israel, we do have a disproportionate relationship with them because there was just a bill the other day, we're just giving them tens of billions. This is not free money. This is American money. This is taxpayer dollars. We're just giving them tens of billions. For what? What the fuck are they even spending it on? We have no idea. We just keep giving them money. I'm fine with foreign aid. I'm totally fine with that being part of American foreign policy, because it does have its place in diplomacy, and the fact that we're the richest nation on earth and we're also the hegemon of the world. I do believe that foreign aid is part and parcel of our foreign policy, but I am telling you, from my standpoint, as a nationalist, and as someone who tries to focus as much as I can on foreign policy, it is disproportionate with Israel. It is disproportionate with Israel. And you can come up with whatever reason you want to explain why that is, but I don't care what the reason is. I just know it's disproportionate, and I don't like it. I'm going to summarize this point, because I don't want to go off the deep end on this, and I know I could for the next 10 minutes. But the United States is the hegemon of the world, and there's no such thing as a permanent alliance or permanent relationship with foreign countries. To put it concisely, let's say Netanyahu overthrows his government and imposes a socialist dictatorship. Let's say that happens. Or some radical thing happens in another nation. It immediately changes our relationship with that country. Jeremy Corbyn becomes a socialist dictator of the United Kingdom. That immediately changes our relationship with the United Kingdom. There is no such thing as a permanent alliance. There's no such thing as a permanent trade relationship. There's no such thing as any kind of permanent relationship between nations. That is the cornerstone of political realism. Because when you take the standpoint of sycophancy, you are becoming the vassal state of that nation. You are too invested in that of a foreign nation. And it does not make sense from a tactical standpoint for that to ever be a realistic case where you should ever do that. I can't think of a single scenario where you should be too invested in a foreign nation as a nation. It doesn't make any sense to me for that to be the case. You should always be ready, prepared, and willing to cut everything, eliminate everything, change everything. That should always be a threat. The idea of friendship between nations is utopian horseshit. Political realism is the only practical standpoint to foreign policy. And it's the only thing with any kind of efficacy. Everything else is just something that's been tried and failed, or is utopian garbage that does not work. I know that Ben Shapiro is intelligent enough to understand political realism. He is not a stupid person. So the fact that he's taking this standpoint of, well, of course we need to be fucking allied with Israel. No. This is Jewish identitarian bullshit talking. This is not a political realist talking. And as far as I know, fucking Ben is practically a neocon. They are like the worst case scenario of political realists. They are the interventionists. They are the ones that are wanting the United States to dominate the fucking world using hard power. You understand this, Ben. So don't give me this fucking horse shit about, Israel's importance to the United States. No, I'm sorry. No relationship between nations is permanent. I am now done with Ben Shapiro. That is that end of this. This is going to be 3 parts. Second part we're moving into is with Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar is an Islamist. I say that because she has a relationship with the Nation of Islam. She is a favorite acolyte of Farrakhan, who is a rabid fucking anti-Semite and fucking lunatic. The Nation of Islam is so radical that back in the day they fucking assassinated Malcolm X for leaving and talking against the organization. That is how fucking radical they are. When Omar was elected, she had the choice to properly serve as a political representative of a district in Congress, or to represent her own interests as a Muslim. She had 2 choices. She chose the latter, not the former. When she got to Congress wearing her stupid fucking headscarf, she was instructed to take it off because there was a nearly 200-year-old rule related to religious garb in Congress that said you cannot wear that garb in Congress. If she was someone that had any respect for the position that she's in, she would have just taken it off. Because she is not there to represent Muslims. She's not there to represent herself. She's not in an executive position. She is a legislator. She is representing a district in a state. That is who she is. She is a representative. She's in a republic. She is only there to represent the interests of those people in that fucking district, in that fucking state. If she was there to do that, she would have removed the headscarf. But she didn't. She refused. She demanded the rule changed. And unfortunately, the Democrats backed her because they want to court that interest block. And the conservatives and Republicans that are in America are worthless, stupid, and I just have to assume nutless, whatever the Italian word is for a castrated bull.
With you? What do you mean? You just sound like a fucking retard.
But also, don't give a shit about the fabric of American culture and society. Don't care. Like to go and bitch and moan, oh, Christian nation, there's a crisis of faith. I'm Ben Shapiro, there's a crisis of faith. But when push comes to shove, they just laid down. They just changed the rules with no opposition. An Islamist walks in the door, walks into the halls of Congress, walks into the halls of power, says, change this. And all the fucking right wing in this country, the people that claim that they're the nationalists, they just bow their fucking head, bend the knee to a foreign ideology and a foreign religion. People who would look at me, turn up their nose, and say, oh, you're a fucking an atheist. Oh, you're this, you're that. Oh, you're not a real conservative. Say all kinds of shit to me. They got on their knees and kissed, like the Pope, kissed the feet of this Muslim and allowed this to happen with no opposition at all. Did exactly as they were instructed to by an Islamist. That's the second example of how I know she is an Islamist. That's why I, jokingly call her Jihadi Jane. She's an Islamist. She ain't there to fucking represent some dickheads in Minnesota, okay? She's here to represent Muslims, Islam. She's there to spread political Islam. That's why she's elected. That's why she ran. That's why she's there. That's the interest she's serving. And everyone apparently is going right along with it. The reason I bring her up is because she keeps being brought up every fucking day by conservatives, by Jewish identitarians, by people that don't like what she's saying, by people that understand that she's an Islamist, but just don't want to call her on it. When in West Virginia, some person, some fucking where, has a meme that calls her out and is implying that she is, they imply that she's a jihadist, but what they mean is that she's an Islamist. They're not wrong. The meme isn't wrong. She is an Islamist. She is demonstrably an Islamist. But the thing is, with a great portion of the right, they just bend the knee. They just kiss her feet. They refuse to call her what she is. So evidently, because they're afraid. They're afraid of Islam. They're afraid of Muslims. They're afraid of losing an election. They're afraid of losing in public opinion and optics. They're afraid. So they just stay away from it. Ben Shapiro's gonna go out there every fucking day, as he has been for the last 2 fucking months, and go, oh, she's an anti-Semite. Oh, I bet Shapiro, she's an anti-Semite. I don't like her. Okay, she's an anti-Semite. Why don't you call her an Islamist? Why don't you call her what she is? Why not? Where the fuck were you when she changed the rules in Congress? Where the fuck were you when, are you here speaking in defense of this fucking person who made this meme? Are you speaking in defense of this person who's calling her an Islamist? No, you're too busy talking about fucking Israel. You're too busy talking about anti-Semitism. Just vague throwaway phrases. You might as well be on the left, Ben Shapiro. You're a homophobe. You're an Islamophobe. You're this, you're that. You're just doing the same shit. This article is the exact same fucking thing. You're not talking about the Nation of Islam. You're not talking about Farrakhan. You're not talking about what happened in Congress. You're not talking about her being a Muslim. Outside of just vague shit, vague throwaway comments. People talk about dog whistles. I guess there's dog whistles in this article where I'm supposed to read between the lines because you're not just calling her for what she is. So now we're approaching 30 minutes in. We're now in the third part of this video. And now you can say, Louis, where is this all going? And here is the actual reason why I'm doing this video. All of this is the consequence of Ben Shapiro's beliefs revolving around integration and immigration. This is all the consequence of people like Ben Shapiro advocating what we have in terms of our immigration and assimilation policy. Ben Shapiro is a naked, flagrant, fucking hypocrite as it relates to American immigration. He has been called on this several times, and every single fucking time he stylizes himself. He calls himself a libertarian. In reality, Ben Shapiro is a capitalist as it relates to immigration. By that, I mean eliminate all social welfare programs and then open the fucking borders. I don't care how many immigrants you bring in. I don't give a shit about the social fabric. I don't give a shit what happens to, the wages of native-born citizens. I don't care about the last wave of immigrants that are trying to assimilate, trying to build a life. I don't give a shit about them. I don't give a shit about anything involving culture and society. All I give a damn about is, are the investors happy, and how much money are the corporations making? How much money are the executives making in bonuses based on total bargain basement wage slavery? How much money are they making on that? And that being the only metric of success. That is, in fact, his position on American immigration. No consideration of assimilation, no consideration, and don't give me the bullshit hedging of, oh, I'm Ben and I'm in favor of the wall still. I'm in fact in favor of some controls. Bullshit. He has been caught several times saying that he wants open borders the second we get rid of all the social welfare programs. That's the only reason he's not in favor of total open borders, is the social welfare programs. Eliminate those, he's in favor of open borders. Don't give me any bullshit. I don't want to hear his fucking hedging. That is what he actually believes. For America. Here's the twist, okay? While we're now suffering with more Muslims in this country than ever before, and the consequences of that being, spreading anti-Semitism, electing Islamists to office who are now changing our society with no opposition to the changes being made at all from fucking anybody. Ben Shapiro does not have a universal standard as it relates to immigration. And he, not I mean, we're all suffering, but he is now directly suffering from his own policies, from his own standpoint, from his own unprincipled, non-universal standard for the United States. He is now suffering because of that. You brought the Jew haters here, Ben, you fucking idiot. Oh man, there's anti-Semitism everywhere. All these Muslims are anti-Semitic. Yeah, no shit, idiot. You're the one advocating we bring them here. You're the one advocating fucking open borders for America, where you fucking live, you idiot. You're not in Israel. You can say whatever you want to about Tel Aviv. You don't live there, you moron. You live here. So guess what? Maybe you should stop advocating for fucking open borders. Maybe you should stop advocating for your libertarian attitude towards immigration. By the way, I won't be able to find it right now because I have to finish this and get it up. I know for a fact that Ben Shapiro has been lambasted. I think it was on Twitter where he said he wanted to increase the immigration rate for the United States. That he's against illegal immigration, but that he wanted to increase, visas. And he got fucking roasted on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to find that. It was a while ago. But I remember that happening. The fact is, he is a total fucking hypocrite on this, and we are now suffering the consequences of what he and many people in the Republican Party, and also the Democrats, obviously, but many in the Republican Party, including him, advocate for. He's now suffering from his own fucking policies that he advocates for. And to conclude this commentary, my position is that every country on the face of this earth, whether it's Japan, Israel, the United Kingdom, France, anywhere, Canada, or the United States, we should all be setting our own immigration policy. And that we should be respecting each other's borders, we should be respecting the fact that nations have borders, and that we should all have domestic policy related to integration, assimilation, and limiting the numbers of immigrants so that the last wave of immigrants can assimilate better, be able to build a life, but also we completely don't disrupt native-born Americans or nationals from being able to work, from being able to earn a decent wage. The big reason why the capitalists, the investors, want that kind of immigration policy of open borders is directly because they can undercut and disrupt the last wave of immigrants and native-born citizens from negotiating their wages. That is the exclusive fucking reason for why they want that kind of immigration. It disrupts unions, which, fine, not everyone's in favor of, but more importantly, it creates the ability for companies to not negotiate wages for employees. Because when in Japan is the example, when there's low immigration and there's a high demand for employment, for labor, there's a labor shortage, which is what it's called. Now the companies have to negotiate. Now they have to offer more benefits. They have to offer better hours. They have to offer a better schedule. They have to offer more perks so that they can win over the best employees to come work for them. That's what happens during a labor shortage. That hurts investors. That hurts capitalists and executives. They want the opposite. They want a flooded labor pool where they don't have to negotiate shit. They can flick some pennies at you and you will be desperate enough to work for anything. That is what they want because it directly benefits them the most. The reason why I'm not in favor of that, even though obviously there's economic benefits to that kind of disastrous system, is the damage that it does to society, the damage that it does to culture, the social upheaval that naturally comes with an immigration rate that's too high in a society that is not willing to force people and stigmatize people that do not integrate. Those are the consequences. Social upheaval, domestic discord, and the ability for the capitalists, the elite, the investors to rule over us. We're too busy fighting each other in the scrap heap, battling each other for shitty jobs, and, fighting amongst each other because we're all divided by ethnic groups and religion and all the other bullshit. The last thing the capitalists want is for employees to be demanding higher wages, to demand more benefits, demand better hours, demand. That's the last fucking thing they want, because as it relates to running a business, human capital, human resources is one of the biggest fucking costs to any business, regardless of sector, industry, whatever. Labor is one of the biggest costs, if not, in half the time, especially in the service sector, it is the biggest cost. They don't want you demanding more because it just costs them more. It just directly costs them more. As a nationalist, I recognize that one of the problems we have is that we have religious enclaves, we have racial enclaves, people are not assimilating, they're not integrating, and the fact is that not only is it hurting American workers, native-born workers and the last immigrants that just came here, the last wave of immigrants that have come, it's hurting them too. It's disrupting them from being able to build a life here. But it is making our society unstable. That is, to me, the biggest thing, is about order and about stability in a society. The social fabric, as it's said. It's frayed, it's disintegrating, and our immigration is a huge contributor for why. It's not the only reason, but I'm saying that my belief is, and this is not a belief exclusive to me, many people believe this as well, that one of the reasons why we have so much chaos, so much upheaval, so many problems in the United States is our immigration rate is too high. And people are not assimilating, and we don't have the necessary things in place, social stigma, stigmatization, that kind of social and cultural pressure, but also domestic policy in terms of integration that is not in place for the people already here to, in fact, integrate. And so when you keep having waves and waves and you're just piling up the immigrants, no one's assimilating, so you create enclaves and then everyone fights. Ben Shapiro, the reason why you're now having to bitch and moan and hand-wring about anti-Semitism isn't from me. It's not from, the Protestants of 200 years ago talking about Christ killers and shit, okay? It's Muslims. That's who you have to deal with now because of your fucking policy, the policy you advocate for. That's why you're now having to deal with fucking people talking about anti-Semitism. It isn't the Protestants of 200 years ago. It is the Muslims of right now. This bitch, I'm pretty sure, is a nationalized citizen. She's not even fucking born here. You brought her here. Your policy brought her here. She's your fault. I don't want her here. I don't want Islamists here. I want a very, very low, as close to zero is my policy of how many Muslims should be in the United States. Now and into the future. It's close to zero as possible. And that is not just because of the issues that I have with social upheaval and the issues that come with immigration, but also because, Muslims have a problem with hating Jews. And they are often prone to violence. Let me think. Let me think of some examples. The Pulse nightclub shooting. What's another one from the early 2000s? Oh, that's right, the worst terrorist attack in American history. Conducted by a fucking dozen Muslims from Saudi Arabia with some box cutters. All in the name of Islam. You think you would fucking care about that as a Jew before they start flying fucking planes into synagogues? Which, by the way, give it time and give it numbers, bro. I'll give you an article from France. I'll give you an article from the United Kingdom. Muslims are targeting Jews in those nations. There might be even examples from Canada or even the United States. Okay? Muslims target Jews because they have problems with Jews. They don't like Jews. They're bigoted towards Jews. I'm not bigoted towards Jews. Many, many people, countless hundreds of millions of people in the U.S. are not bigoted towards Jews. Muslims disproportionately are. Why are you bringing them here, Ben? Why are you advocating for bringing them here? You're only creating the problem. You're only exacerbating this problem that you recognize and obfuscate about. I'm being very direct in what the problem is. Okay? You're not going to reform this fucking religion after 1,400 years of strife and conflict and fucking massacres and genocide and terrorism. You're not reforming it in your lifetime. So why the fuck are you inviting it in, dude? You bring it in, there's anti-Semitism. Well, Jesus Christ. What a fucking surprise is that? I want more people, not just me, to call out Ben Shapiro on this. Because this is bullshit. These are the consequences of his policy, of his advocacy. This is him being the capitalist conservative, advocating for this kind of policy. These are the direct consequences of what he advocates for, not me. I want there to be less Muslims. I want the Muslims here to integrate because I don't want them going out committing anti-Semitic fucking hate crimes. Okay? I don't want that. I'm opposed to that. That's why I want lower immigration rate, close to zero Muslims is possible in immigration, and also solid standards that they must integrate to. Okay? If I was in Congress and she was in there, this Islamist bitch was in there demanding that rule change, I would have been screaming at the top of my lungs in Congress, stating the opposite, opposing it directly. I would be doing as much as I could, even as a representative, to stand against the fraying, the disintegration of our society. Where the fuck are you, Ben? Where are you on this? Because as far as I can tell, you are a fucking hypocrite. A knowing hypocrite. And I'm just going to leave it here.